The book of Jonah ends in a way that feels unfinished on purpose. There's no resolution, no repentance scene, no soft ending for Jonah. The last thing we get is a question from God hanging in the air unanswered. And that's intentional because the story was never meant to resolve Jonah. It was meant to confront him. Jonah sits outside the city angry. Angry that God showed mercy, angry that God didn't act the way he wanted him to, angry enough to say out loud that he'd rather die than live in a world where God forgives people like the Ninevites. And God responds not with punishment, but with a question that exposes Jonah's heart. Jonah cares deeply about his own comfort and deeply resents God's compassion. He grieves a plant and despises a city. And God names the disconnect without softening it. You care about what benefits you, Jonah, but you resist mercy when it benefits others. And that's where the story stops. And it stops there because Jonah is meant to function like a mirror. The question God asks Jonah is now aimed at us. Do you care more about your comfort than God's compassion? Do you love mercy in theory but resist it in practice? Do you want God's grace to reach you but not stretch through you? And this is where the story has to point beyond Jonah, because Jonah can't carry that weight. Jonah knows God's character, but resists living in alignment with it. Jonah refuses to love his enemies. Jonah sits outside the city hoping judgment will fall. Jonah would rather protect his sense of justice than participate in God's mercy. And Jesus does the opposite. Jesus doesn't sit outside the city waiting for judgment. He walks towards it. He weeps over it. He enters it knowing it will cost him everything. Where Jonah resists mercy, Jesus embodies it. Where Jonah withdraws, Jesus moves closer. Where Jonah wants distance, Jesus takes the cross. And that's the heart of the story. Jonah shows us the limits of even sincere religion. Jesus reveals the fullness of God's heart. And the invitation at the end of this week isn't to fix Jonah or to defend him. It's to ask whether our lives look more like Jonah's resistance or Jesus's surrender. So sit with this as we close. Where have you settled into being right instead of being merciful? Where have you protected comfort instead of trusting God's compassion? And where might God be inviting you to live differently because his mercy reached you first? Thanks for spending a few minutes before the noise with me today. And don't forget, God's mercy doesn't stop with you. It moves through you. And he loves you more deeply than you could possibly imagine. We'll see you on Monday.